It's time for a Korn review, YouTube. I've got their 2016 album, The Serenity of Suffering, and this album is basically a blockbuster. There's really no reason why you shouldn't own it, and I'm really glad that Korn came out around this time because they could have spaced out their records. They were just here in late 2013, and I think the singles lasted into 2014. So it's, really they didn't have to come back this soon, but I'm glad they did. And big thing about this release is since about midsummer, July or so, we've been hearing the song Rotting in Vain. Now, this is, the reason why I have so much appreciation for this song is it feels a lot like Korn, what they're best at, which is really those haunting and depressing type songs, but also being able to get you excited. So it may be depressing, but it's also the opposite of that because you don't really want to be sluggish when you're around them. I mean, I know their concerts are probably hectic, and this hasn't changed since 1998, and I don't think it will change over the next 5 or 6 years or even further. So, of the Korn albums I reviewed, one of my favorites is Issues, and I also happen to like their 2005 album, even though I don't own it. Now, really, that was the last time I reviewed a Korn album, and I did want to review the Untouchables, but it's a little bit longer, and I just have to focus. So I'm going to review that album pretty soon also, but, there's loads of Korn. They're kind of one of the forefronts of the nu metal genre, so this is a treat. And apart from that, the only thing I'm kind of worried about is just wondering how the rest of these singles are going to chart, because, I just don't want folks saying, okay, Korn's heyday in the sun is kind of over. It's time for the new age. I don't know if we need to be doing that yet with metal. I mean, obviously, I think they can still crank out hits. So that leads me to the second single, which is Take Me, which is actually rougher. It's not as manic and eerie as Rotting in Vain is, but this is another one that has it down. I mean, I definitely appreciate it. Kind of reminds me of Thoughtless. I mean, that's a song that it reminds me somewhat. And, as of right now, a lot of times these rougher songs don't really chart as much because it needs, like, the melodies to kind of sink them in. But still, I mean, that's a perfect mosh song. And there have been promotional songs. There definitely has. Corey Taylor of Slipknot and Stone Sour is the only guest that shows up, and I'm kind of glad that they did this, seeing as both of these bands were, huge around the exact same time as each other. So this works, and this is another one that you want to hear. That one kind of sounds shaky and kind of freaky also. I think you'll like both of those. There's loads of these songs on this album between the metal that they go to and the more kind of anguish and eerily sound metal that they do. They kind of balance that, and there's really no room for like the kind of ballad type song. So you get it's just a straight punch the whole way through. There's no slowing down. And I'm kind of liking the kind of train wreck effect that this record has, and I recommend people take this sort of approach more often. I'm just going to have to start reviewing more of these albums. But so the songs you need to hear are basically the whole album, but I'm going to pick out of 11 songs, the 5 ones I like the most that you need to go for. So Rotting in Vain is, of course, once you listen to radio, you'll hear it. Take Me is the other one. I'd like to, because this album is only about a month old, I would like to see them last into 2017. So I'm definitely going to start listening to that song. Everything Falls Apart has a different kind of guitar riff on there, which is one that I do appreciate. As far as it being a single, I'm not so sure it would be, but it's still a pretty slick song. That's another one. It was an approach I wasn't expecting from Korn. The Hating is just like Take Me. That's another one that I would, you need to go for. And Die Yet Another Day, and also A Different World with Corey Taylor. That one, go for that one, but then I need to remember the song. Die Yet Another Day, or Die Yet Another Night, rather, I think. That is one that, yeah, I mean, these are just hip songs. You really gotta mess with a lot of these. So I'm going to talk about The Hating, because that one is similar to Take Me, and I think for the most part you guys are going to like this blend that goes on with this record. I mean, it really makes sense that the record is such a scare, and so I wouldn't, think that Korn has lost their touch. If you're used to Korn and you've really heard more than 10 records, it may seem as if it's just more of the same, but don't fall into that trap. I mean, that's the whole thing, is don't fall into the trap of thinking, well, I've liked Korn since 1999, so there's really nothing new that they can do. I mean, I think in order to get them revitalized, we have to at least, show that we think that they can do it. You can only try so hard before it's like, you can't. So that, I definitely think that, and this is such a record, and I feel like probably the Paradigm Shift was like that also. But, that's a huge problem that goes on, is most people are grading it by their shock versus the actual quality of the release. So if you fall into that trap, it might not stand out as much, but it basically is great music. And so yeah, Rotting in Vain is a very smooth first single. Take Me, A Different World, these songs that you're going to hear, you don't want to ignore. And this record will get a 10. The social score, I'm going to give a 5 right now, just because there's only one song that's really charting. I think so many folks like Rotting in Vain that the second single has not really gotten a chance yet. This kind of happened to Adele. People liked Hello so much that they didn't really care about her follow-up singles until much later. And it seems like Korn is having this problem, but I would like to see them chart more, so they just don't drop promotion of the project in 2 months or 5 weeks or something like that, And if I had to pick some songs I think should be released as singles, I would probably say Insane and maybe Black as the Soul, songs like that. I mean, there's definitely many, but yeah, obviously I'd pretty much, the promotional singles like the Corey Taylor song, I would say just push those out as singles, because obviously out of 11 songs there's not really that much room to have 4 or 5 different songs off the project. But I would like to see, I would like to be hearing Korn in 2017. So the social score gets a 5, and that just means how well it plays around your friends. You can up the score if you like metal, because it should not. This is not something that it has a learning curve. And The Future, this just came out in October, so that's that. And the only other thing is can this record be topped? The answer is absolutely not. So